I am just very quickly, as way of introduction, going to show you a little video clip, and just wanted to thank these people who were all involved in making this video. Some of you may have seen this video already, but it's just a quick 4 minutes by way of introduction, and then I will be introducing our next speaker.
From a nursing perspective, seclusion is something that we don't like to do. It's something that is counterintuitive to the recovery model. I didn't come into nursing to lock somebody in a room. I find it very distressing. My experience of seclusion was always something which made me feel very, very uncomfortable, and I do have quite vivid memories of being involved in incidents, and we would leave the person in the room and the seclusion room door would shut, and I'd look at my colleagues and they'd be very stressed and I'd be very stressed. We'd gone into it in a professional and a calm manner because it was something we had to do. It was the only way we were able to manage the situation. We had to actually keep that person safe, keep ourselves safe, and we thought it was in the best interest of that person. We had no idea that it was actually really, really traumatising to that person. And I suppose we didn't really acknowledge how traumatising it was to us. And it used to always make me think, how the hell are we supposed to have any kind of therapeutic relationship with that person after we've secluded them?
No one asked me when I came into Hillmorton, Sunnyside, or seclusion, what my cultural beliefs were, what my culture was. If they'd identified me as Māori, because I'm light-skinned doesn't mean I'm not Māori. You know, talk to us. That's how we treat our people. Talk to us.
Whakatakata hau ki te uru, whakatakata hau ki te tonga. O kia o mā kina kina ki uta, kia o mā taratara ki tai. Kia he ake ana te ata kura, he teo, he hoka, he hauhu ngāti hei, mauri ora. I had my own ways of coping. I had my own ways of dealing with what I was experiencing. I've been blessed to come from Māori culture, and a lot of the ways and means that I utilise to manage my own experiences are from that. Like, for instance, if I'm feeling myself becoming unstable or a little bit worried or a little bit stressed out, quite often I'll retreat and do karakia. Occasionally, depending on what's going on for me, if I need to burn up some inner energy, I'll do things like haka and that sort of thing. The problem with that, however, is again, when you've got a large brown guy who's potentially quite mad, who's out there yelling and screaming, i.e. performing a haka, that tends to result in a whole bunch of guys leaping on you and dragging you away back to your seclusion room. This, of course, I didn't find overly helpful. To me, what I was doing was actually allowing myself to maintain balance. It wasn't a sign of unbalance or disbalance. It was a sign and a method for which I regained my wellness, actually. It should not have been interpreted as a sign of unwellness or decompensation, as it's often called. To me, it was actually about regaining my balance, regaining my solidity.
Seclusion is a practice that alienates staff from patients, disturbs any possibility of the so-called therapeutic relationship. It's as hard for staff to rebuild out of seclusion as it is for those that are in seclusion to rebuild into a world that makes sense.
Seclusion should end in a heartbeat. There should be no seclusion because it's inhumane, and it's not seclusion. Let's call it what it is. It's solitary confinement because you're locking somebody up. It's not. How is that treatment?
I firmly believe that the issues of seclusion should be seen as a sign of failure somewhere. I think that when you've exhausted all your options, there's still another option. And when you've exhausted all your options, it doesn't mean that no one else has another option there. It just means that perhaps you need to step away and allow someone else to come in and apply another option.
So it's now my pleasure to introduce Dean Rangihuna, who's of Ngāti Porou and Ngāti Hei descent. Hunter-gatherer, father of 4 boys, he worked at Ngāhaui Whā National Marae for 10 years with youth at risk, helping them to complete their community service hours. He's worked alongside police, courts, SIFs, gangs, corrections, and in training and education, providing pastoral and supportive care to students and their family whānau. He worked for a Maori mental health NGO as a community support worker for 4 years and has been in his current position as Maori Consumer Advisor for Canterbury DHB for 14 years, as well as Pukenga Atawhai Maori Health Worker for 14 years. There he is working alongside forensic and adult inpatient services, minimising restraint and seclusion events where there's been perceived violence or heightened aggression. He's a member of the reference group for Te Rau Matatini, working on Maori workforce development, and was on the working group looking at Action 9D of the Disability Action Plan in relation to mental health legislation and its compliance against human rights and the UN Convention of the Rights of Disabled People. Recently he's been appointed to the government's Mental Health Inquiry Panel, and he's a member of NAMSCA, the National Mental Health Consumer Advisors Association. One of the things Dean has done well is to work hard to bring consumers out of seclusion sooner rather than later. He's got a 90% success rate when called out to a highly intensive and aggressive situation that may result in no restraint or seclusion because of his intervention, or he's contributed to that. He's also been working alongside the police, calming and de-escalating situations that require intervention and preventing the need for people being restrained by the police, both within the community, within police cells, or within the hospital ED. So please welcome Dean Rangahuna.
He honore he kōrte atu he maungongo ki te whenua e whakaro pai ki nā tangata katoa a tihei Māori ora. Ko te mea tuatahi ko tātou mātu inu te rangi, nā I tīmata, nā e whakotina me katoa, he honore he kōrea ki torongi tāpu. Te whare e tū nei, tūtonu, ai e take ana he whare ātāhua, he whare whakahirahira nō reira tēnā koe rangi nui e tū nei, rāua ko papatuanu koe tākoto nei, a tēnā koroa, a takoto mai. Takoto mai. Ha mihi atu ki ngā mate haere atu rā. Haere atu rā ki o mātua tūpuna. Haere atu rā ki o tātou mātua inuitarangi. Nō reira haere o te atu. Mui mai rā. Ha ki ngā maunga, ki ngā awa, ki ngā whenua, ki ngā marae, a tēnā koutou katoa. Ngā mihi, ia ke raurangatira, ko taimau ki te haramau ki tēnei wānanga. Nō reira koutou mā, ki ngā pau, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Ko waiau, ko whetamātarau te maunga tāpu, ko waiapu te awa, ko hene ripi te whare wairua, whare whakairo, ko te aopari te hāpū, no kawa mai tāwhiti au, ko Ngāti Parau te iwi, ko Dīnangi hina toku ingawa. E mahi ana au ki te kahāpai mo te pōwari hauara o Waitaha. Nō reira tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora everybody, ngā mihi ki o koutou. I've got some writings in here. If people know me, I want to give justice to how I speak and the people that I need to acknowledge. So on that vein, acknowledging te pau o te whakaro nui, and I have worked on some wonderful people, Carolyn Swanson and Lois Boyd, and they've been one of the main strengths for me and one of the main and very good friends, very dear friends of mine that's helped and assisted me. But I've also taken the notion to look at all the literature and research that the PO has been putting out. I've never sort of gone into that domain before, but it certainly broadens my knowledge, and it also acknowledges all the good work that the PO are doing throughout the country. And that brings me to the Health, Quality and Safety Commission New Zealand. Awesome. and we need that group because that group will help transform the way that we work. And that where I work, we'll always look at continuous quality improvements, and so it's necessary that we have that leadership of that group that will help and assist us to work towards zero seclusion. Big kaupapa whānau. It's a big subject, and it's going to take a lot of work and a whole systems approach in order to get there. And I guess with the Health and Quality and Safety Commission acknowledging the inclusion of the Māori Advisory Group. Ngā mihi, ia kia ora rangatira, tēnā koutou. And also acknowledging Wee Keelan, Dr. Janice Wilson, Robin Shearer and Ron Dunham, and more importantly to my friends and my peers, my consumer peers, my comrades, my brothers and sisters in arms, for whom I've learnt of. And I say that with respect, with regards to being a member of the National Association of Mental Health Senior Consumer Advisor, namely NAMSCA, who have clothed me in their korowai of cloaking care, and who have brought an understanding for me in terms of processes and systems, because I'm a gumboot boy, straight out of Te Araroa, not out of Compton, out of Te Araroa. And you know, I've got a PhD in corrections, in mental health and social services. And I'm proud of that, and I will never let anyone take that away from me. And for me, rather than being enculturated in the system, I will work alongside the system for the betterment of the consumers that come to the services. And I also acknowledge all the DHB representation here. It's a hard road to hoe, working towards this, but it's a must. Places of containment, of confinement, is not conducive for one's recovery. We all know that. And so this is like a big think tank. That's kind of what I feel about the many voices and the many hats that are in here today. And NAMSCA has been dear to my heart because I was like a fish out of water, and I never spoke for about 5 years, but I was exposed to that realm of leaders, of consumer leaders. And sadly enough, the 14 years that I've been going up there, there's not many Māori consumer advisors there. And so I put a plea out, a respectful plea, to ensure that we have those Māori consumer advisor roles across the country, as well as the whānau Māori roles also within the respective DHBs. It's not good enough when I'm sitting there and most of my colleagues from the who are mainstream consumer advisors, they're there, but the Māori consumer advisor. And the thing is, it should go without saying, because you only have to have a look at the stats. And I also acknowledge my whānau from Canterbury District Health Specialist Mental Health Service, Stu Bigwood, Perry Renison, Gabby Buchanan, Patrick McAllister and Claire Rowling. And none other than Eric Monasterio. He keeps following me around. But it's those leaders who have enabled me to walk with them, who have enabled me to be strategically positioned within the Canterbury District Health Specialist Mental Health Service. And I'll pay mention to that in terms of where that is. And please, for the consumer advisors, once again, I know I keep beating on that one, but there seems to be invariances in terms of where that role sits. And I feel that needs to be examined more closely, and that we should be all working in the same manner. and they should be given the mana with regards to where they sit. And I need not go on why I'm here. That goes without saying. I've given 30 years as a servant to the people. 15 of those have been working on the cold face with regards to the forensic inpatient unit, the adult inpatient unit, with regards to this particular kaupapa. And I want to say this. Why is it that Dean's never been assaulted? Why is it, when I've gone in there to intervene with the help of clinicians, because they're my friends, that it hasn't resulted in a restraint or seclusion event? But I'll touch on that as I go through my presentation. But it's necessary for me to say that I'm part of a restraint minimisation committee. I'm a safe practice effective communication trainer. I'm part of the recruitment selection process for NESP nurses, and I'm a cultural trainer. And that's why I give homage to the Canterbury District Health Specialist Mental Health Service for allowing me to be in that space and place. So more importantly, making sure that I acknowledge the many consumer voices across the country, both locally, regionally and nationally. And as we saw up here, open doors and also mental notes. Those are the stories we should be listening to. And we need to consider those stories as well. Now I put this up here because that's what's aided and supported me to help reduce restraint and seclusion, which is around the relationship. And I'll read this out because I want it to sink in. People may not remember exactly what you did or what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And I'm just going to give one example. There was this Chinese lady, she came running into the MDT meeting. She was mentally distressed. And then I went, "Hey, it's the guitar man." That distracted her. She had a look at me. And then I said, "Come on, let's go outside." Or people remember me from 13, 12, 10 years ago. "Oh, I remember you. Da, 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 da." So you would ask the question, why? I'll touch on that as I go through my presentation. But the importance of whakawhanangatanga in relationship is underestimated. The problems and the mai, the hurt and the pain that people experience is through severed relationships. Relationships are key towards the transformation of any quality initiatives. They are key when you're working with our whānau in a tapu space. What's tapu? It's sacred. What do I refer to? I refer to going in there into the seclusion area when there's perceived violence and aggression. I have no fear when I go into those areas, because when they see me, they say, "Oh, what ward did you come from, bro?" Or, "Did they let you out?" Or when I tell them, no, I work for the establishment. "Whoa, how'd you get in there?" So what I'm talking about is that relatability. What I'm talking about is that connectedness. What I'm talking about when it's our Māori people that are in seclusion and they see another Māori figure coming in there, bang, straight away. The focus is off the people that are standing around them, and it annoys me. It annoys me when there's about eight or six people standing around. But I know that we have to mitigate risk, we have to manage risk to ensure the safety of ourselves and the safety of the consumers. So I thought I'd see through the eyes and the voices of consumers within seclusion. So I took a bit of this kōrero out of the work that our senior occupational therapists, these are the things. When you're stuck in there, it's really scary. You're just there with your mind. The voices are torturous, and they are, because that's what I see and that's what I observe. They're reacting sometimes to unknown stimuli. You know, and it gobsmacked me when one of them said to me, "Hey, I've got no privacy. Voices 24/7, bro." My voices were really bad when it was silent. I just heard this high-pitched ringing constantly. One of them said to me when I went in there, "Can you hear them, bro?" "No, I can't hear anything, bro." You're locked in a square, sterile room with only your mind. Some of the folks that I've worked with have been locked in sheds. They have a multi-traumatized background. How dare we lock our people up and put our hands on them? Especially those ones who have lived abuse, sexual abuse. That's a hard one to take. How would you like to be confined in a space with combining voices when they tell me? I learnt this new word, sensory deprivation, but I get it. You know why I get it? Because when I walk into those seclusion rooms, there's nothing in there. What's in there? And so you ask yourself, would you like your family member to go into a room like that? I'll tell you what that reminds me of. Being in my police cell. Being in my prison cell. Why should mental health be the same? And so we must look at examining that environment. Not to make it welcoming, but to treat them as a whānau member. And you know what really gets to me? For me as Māori, is when I see my whānau having to eat off a bed. Well, I'll tell you this now, I pull them out of there and they can sit on the chair and have a table there. Make sure that it's appropriate. CHB's got some good gizwas there inside the seclusion room. But it's a place of conversation and it's a place of respect. I don't want to eat off my bed. We sleep on our bed. That's tapu. And, you know, I had one nurse goes, "Oh, no, he's just gone in seclusion." I said, "Well, no, you pull him out." I said, "I'm not seeing anything. He's not being reactional. He's not being verbose. He's not being aggressive. Pull him out." Guess what? It was as easy as that. And sometimes people, us, you know, as we align ourselves to systems and processes, instead of aligning ourselves to the needs of the people, of the consumers. And we're taking away everything that's dangerous. And what are we replacing it with? Well, nothing. We are now. The OT wouldn't have it any other way. And nor would my other comrades. And, you know, I've seen the bros and sisters banging their heads, self-harming, decompensating, and they're in a sick and volatile state, and we lock them up. Who are we to do that? They say to me, "Bro, they don't understand. They're not listening." And one of them said to me, "Oh, all right for you. You get to leave." You know, I copped some of that too. But what I want to say to that as well, when I'm in there, and around that relatability and connectedness, it brings a place where they start de-escalating. My job is to bring them to their place of conversation so they can engage with the clinician or the doctor and try and establish what's going on. What do I observe when going in to assist, support clinicians when there's perceived violence, aggression? Learned another new thing. It's called a parallel process. So what happens for the consumers happens for the clinicians. Fight for flight, seen it many a time when I've rocked up there. I see both the consumer and the staff scared. I see fear and apprehension coming from the nurses for whom I work with, for whom I work alongside with. And the main words I use when I roll up to the seclusion, but firstly I click into the clinical nurse manager or clinical nurse specialist to find out what's going on, what's been the sequence of events that's led up to them being secluded, or to them being angry or ticking off. When I use the words, bro, sister, I just want to maintain your dignity and mana. Sometimes from saying that, I see tears. I see tears because there's someone in front of them that cares, that asks them that. And I feel for my nurses, and I want to talk about them. They're incredibly skilled nurses who do a great job caring for our consumers. I reiterate the importance of including their views when working towards zero seclusion. They should be part of the Health and Safety Quality Commission, because they're the ones that are faced with what they're faced with, and sometimes at their own peril. They're the ones who I believe are champions towards reducing restraint and seclusion. A lot of those nurses I work with are family. They have families of their own. And I know they haven't come out of the Bronx. They've come out of a place where life's been okay. It's been all right, and then all of a sudden they're in there and they're faced with this mental distress. I want to talk about my DHB. I feel I'm talking in a place of neutrality and impartialness. But good leadership, care and compassion, we simply do whatever it needs to do to avoid seclusion. I know this because I've made my business to go and talk to the clinical managers within the adult inpatient unit. They don't conform to a process or system. They think outside the square box and do whatever it takes in order not to lay their hands on people, on consumers. And I believe it's a good service with leadership and care and compassion. I wouldn't say that about my service. I'm not one for mincing my words. But I say that because that's how they've treated me. That's what I observe when I see them working with our whānau at those times when they're anxious and they're mentally distressed. And these nurses, let's not forget, are the ones who are assaulted and who try their best. So I'm asking, how could we provide more support for our nurses? And so that needs to be examined. The consumer advisors, and I've talked about bringing mana to their role. They have a lot to offer. They're the ones that have helped me grow personally and professionally. They're the ones who have exposed me to all the great work that they do in the DHBs that they represent. Tapo look after Carol and them wonderfully. You know, they're the bee's knees, those two. I know I keep going on about them, but I sit with them at another level. And I'll talk about that. But I believe that when you're reviewing restraint and seclusion events, that the consumer advisor needs to be there. And we need to look at examining that whole process of how did this seclusion happen? Why did it happen? What were the triggers? And what were the sequence of events leading up to that? Because within that, there's a solution. And that solution will tell us not to go down that track anymore, not to take that route anymore. Maybe this is the better way of addressing it. And when talking with the clinical managers throughout the inpatient units, they tell me that they meet with the consumer and staff, but it's not a beat up session, it's this one here. It's an informal conversation. So then it allows transparency and honesty. We can work with that. Safe practice, effective communication. They were recruiting and for this for some trainers. I didn't apply initially. Stu knows that. So Stu come and approached me with a nurse consultant and said, "Dino, how come you didn't apply for this for the trainer role here?" Well, I've been subjected to abuse, inhumane abuse, within different systems in that. And the selection recruitment process will get the right people, because it's a big ask for consumer trainers to do what they do. Do I feel safe? Yep. Do I look after myself? Yep. What kind of things do I do to look after myself? Well, I like to reflect on what I do, so I take that to supervision, both in a clinical sense and a cultural. Peer group supervision. And I'm one for talking. You can't shut me up sometimes. But it's necessary, because that's what aids and helps me. I kind of align it to the talking therapies. But it's natural for Māori, for us as Māori, to be talkative, to say things, suggest things. But the spec, I did take up the trainer, and I'm glad I did. And for the consumers and the consumer advisors that are in here today, it's a hard ask of yourselves, but I'll tell you what, I'm glad I did, because it's put me in a position of influence. It's put me in a position to work alongside our nursing colleagues and other mental health disciplines. And it's helped me and enabled me to build a relationship with everyone across the division, especially particularly within inpatient units. And so the SPEC rollout now is in its second year. It has been led by the Directors of Mental Health Nursing with best practice support from Te Pou. Te Pou, awesome. And the key stakeholder guidance of the SPEC governance, and the minutes are made available by Te Pou at the end of March. And anecdotal evidence from discussions with trainers and DHB leaders in SPEC is making a difference. And I can say that now, it is making a difference. Why do I say that? Because Dean was called into the inpatient unit. And what I love about the nurses now, they are so reluctant about restraint and seclusion. So I'm waltzing up there. Pretty long forensic history, this middle-aged Māori man. So I find out what's going on. He's been a bit intimidating. He's reacting because he can't get what he wants. So I go to him. I said, "Chebo, what's up?" And that's another thing too, whānau. For Māori, it's around the language, and around that relatability and connectedness. And the language I'm talking about is the Botown language. That's what I'm saying. The language that they're used to hearing it in the prisons, the language they're used to hearing it with their whānau, the language they're used to hearing it when they're knocking it with their bros or sisters, the language that they're used to within the mental health system when they're together. Straight away, The focus is off people who are standing around them to someone who's in front of them who's been there and done it. So I wish to look at peer support, but peer support in a way where the DHBs have a say in it, or te pau. What kind of peer support am I talking about? Well, I tell you what, you have to be skilled and be on your game when you go into those areas when there's perceived violence or aggression. It's not easy. I've done it because I've been doing it for mairano. And I hope that the clinicians who observe me when I go in there to intervene so that it prevents the situation from escalating any more than it has to. And I implore Te Pau and the Health and Safety Quality Commission about the discussions around Māori and what works for Māori. And I'm going to be cheeky, we need more Māori FTE. That's it, straight up the guts. I'm not going to muck around. It's in the literature. If we're going to talk the talk, let's walk the walk. And we as Māori want to work in partnership with anyone that will take us to bring about good, measurable outcomes for our people, for the consumers. Tangata whaiora. And up at the spec governance, woohoo, I sit up there too. And it's a credit to the DOMs, to the directors of nursing, that we have 2 consumer voices that sit there, as well as a whānau voice. 3. Awesome. I stand corrected. But that's mean. That says something quite loud. And we have a lot to offer when we're at those tables, and that's what I'm saying about consumer advisors, to ensure that you strategically position them where they should be. Listen to them. They'll tell you. Because that's how my DHB have treated me. They've valued me. They've treated me with respect. And they honour me. And I honour them. And it is authentic collaboration with consumers of services in terms of achieving least restrictive practice and seeking feedback and involvement from current active service users. And I need to reiterate the importance of using the views of those consumers who have had a recent experience of seclusion. You know, Sean says, oh, I want you to talk about your experience of seclusion. I told him no. I said, no, I will stand here and talk through the eyes of the consumers and utilise their voices, and which I've done. And I like the principles of SPEC, prone-free, pain-free, trauma-informed care, consumer-centred, and the approaches are friction-free and restraint-free. I know that because I've trained alongside them. I'll tell you this now. I've never ever laid a hand on any consumer whatsoever. I've helped them avoid restraint and seclusion through this. Through sometimes lowering myself. It's depending on what the situation is. You know, I get to the atrium and there's 13 people there. And I think, whoa, what's going on here? And I received about 2 or 3 phone calls from different managers. I was a gang member, and he was kicking off. I wasn't appropriately addressed, but I come with my gumboots. I'm a Ngāti by nature. And a singlet. When I went in there, straight away he seen me. I said, Kazi, these people are scared. What are you doing? Oh, bro, I just want a cigarette. And the bloody cigarette thing, oh my God. I know. Anyway, I just whispered to him, Cuzzy, yeah, come on, let's just go to a quieter area, eh? Oh, it's blowing me a hole when I went to lead them off, they were all following me. Stop! But they just wanted to make sure I was safe. I'm fine when it comes to my people. They sense that from me. It's a wairua thing. And I want to maintain their mana and their integrity. Because they don't have any control over what we do to them. And so I've observed the change in culture, and I'll come back to this guy who I was sent out to. And they won't even restrain me, bro. I went, oh, for God's sake, those days are gone, Cuzzy. And that's why I know that there's a big shift within our inpatient areas and a reluctance to restrain or seclude. We're looking at any way possible. We're looking at whatever it's going to take. Gone are the days of conforming to the rules and regulation. Well, within a limit, of course. But that's what's worked for me when I've gone in there to negotiate. For the consumers and for the nurses. I've worked with some bloody good nurses. They are my friends. Also with other mental health disciplines. And the occupational therapist has got a lot to offer. A lot of innovation, a lot of creativity. So let's make the seclusion area a better place. Because I tell you what, you're your own worst enemy when you're sitting in seclusion. Nō reira koutou mā. Thanks for listening to me. I hope that I have influenced one's thinking. What I've said's been around for a while. I've just got the place and space to be able to articulate that for the consumer voice, not for Dean. There's no I in we. And so we are faced with a challenge, but I'm sure we can reach that together. Mahitahi, working together. Nō reira koutou mā, ia ke raurangatira ki ngā pau, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. I'm just going to sing a waiata, brother. This waiata's from back home. E hara tēnei, I te maunga neke neke, te maunga tūtonu, ha maunga hukurangi, ko te toka tēnei. O aku tipuna, he toka ahuru, he toka whakairo, tūtonu mā.